There are a few things I would like to share with you about our next speaker. Number one, the City Club of Chicago is enormously grateful to him and his wife Amy for both visiting and speaking at Misericordia, and encourage everyone, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, to give back in the same measure they've received. And after listening to Amy's story and her remarks, it is clear that our next speaker married way up, well above his station in life. The City Club of Chicago proudly takes credit, partial credit, for our part of the fabulous publicity which our next speaker earned by joining us at the Special Olympics Chicago Polar Plunge, inviting Jimmy Fallon and helping raise $1.2 million for children and adults with special needs. Number three, our next speaker's appointment of Forrest Claypool shows he has made the Chicago Transit Authority a top priority. His emphasis on the safety of CTA riders has resulted in reliable, safe, and on-time service. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mayor Rahm Emanuel. Mayor.
Let me start the 5-minute rebuttal now. Let me also, first of all, say, while I was proud to do the polar plunge, because it was not only for a good cause, the credit actually goes to the children of the city of Chicago who read over 2 million books. I am asking for a recount next year. You should know they read 2.7 million books this last summer across the city of Chicago. So don't ever, the takeaway, don't ever bet against the children of the city of Chicago. You're going to be on the short end of that bet. And it goes to all the librarians and librarian assistants, their parents who took them to the library as part of Rahm's Readers. So, yeah. You know, there's part of our summer learning now, there's 12 cities around the country that are all LA, Dallas, all copying what the city of Chicago's done between its park district, its library system, and encouraging kids to read during the summer, and our kids have set records. I am here as a user of the CTA, not as the mayor and not as a dear friend. That's a joke, you guys. Lighten up, man. You guys are. I think I've never seen a crowd so ready for family coming over for Thanksgiving. All right. Breathe. I would highly recommend it every 20 seconds, okay? I actually took the CTA this morning. I take it twice a week. But I'm not here only as a rider and not just as a mayor. I'm also here as a dear friend of Forrest Claypool's. Forrest and I started in politics 34 years ago together on our first congressional campaign. But I am also here and very proud of the fact that with the appointment of Forrest Claypool, who's done an incredible job of modernizing the CTA. One fact, more people take the CTA in a single month than take all of Amtrak nationwide all year. Second largest system in America. And Forrest has done an incredible job putting 5,000 people to work, rebuilding and modernizing the CTA that all of us rely one way or another to get from home to work, work to home, or from neighborhood to neighborhood in one way or another. There are stations, and I see Alderman Moore here, there are stations that were built in the city of Chicago, still operable, that were built when Roosevelt was president and the Cubs had won the World Series. And I mean Teddy Roosevelt, and he was Rough Rider. I don't mean Franklin Roosevelt. Forrest has embarked on a capital campaign unprecedented across the country at a time when this CTA, the city, relied on it. Our neighborhoods rely on it for the vitality of the economics of a retail area in and around the stations. Our residents rely on it and the commuters to get from home to work. As Jay noted, they can do it not only reliably, safely. Every station in the city of Chicago now, not a few, not a couple, every station has cameras throughout the system. The CTA camera system not only works to protect our riders, they actually have helped the police solve crimes outside the station on the streets of the city of Chicago. The Red Line South, as I note now, you don't have to go 15 miles an hour and watch somebody on the bike beat you. You can go 55 miles an hour, and you can drop your kids off at school and get to work on time, which you could not have done for the last 40 years. And the testament to Forrest's leadership and management is that entire modernization of the CTA was done in 5 months, on time, on budget, replacing 10.5 miles of track, every station rebuilt. People enjoyed the time away from the CTA so much they asked us to keep the free bus rides going in that area. So it was both a testament of what they thought before, but also now the CTA was the red line with South was the only line that was actually seeing a declining ridership, and that has halted. And we've now changed the trajectory because they have something that the rest of us who take the brown line or the red line or other lines can rely on. They know they can get to work on it. He has shown what it means to modernize the system. And one of the reasons Chicago last year was the #1 city for corporate relocations and expansion, one of the reasons Chicago was also the #1 city people are moving back into, was we have a modern public transportation system. We rely on it as individuals. The city relies on it as a part of our economic strategy and development. You can get anywhere in the world from O'Hare and Midway or anywhere in North America, weather permitting, and that's something we're working on. Also, the truth is, though, you can get from any part of the city to another part of the city because of our CTA. And our transportation system is unique. It's an incredible economic strength for the city of Chicago. It creates jobs, neighborhood economic vitality, and keeps Chicago economically competitive. The head of the CTA, my dear friend, Forrest Claypool.
Thank you, Mayor Emanuel, very much for that introduction. And the mayor's pretty much covered my remarks, so have a very good time. Also, I just wanted to say, Father, I hope you don't mind if I delay that L ride to the pearly gates for a while. And I sure as heck don't want to be on the reverse shuttle with Paul Green. So. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here today with Mayor Emanuel to talk about some of the important things that the CTA has been doing in Mayor Emanuel's first term. I'm going to put my remarks here. Thank you. In Mayor Emanuel's first term, and also about some of the exciting things that are coming down the tracks. But before we look ahead, I'd like to take a look back, way back. And you see this gentleman. During his tenure, Lou Gehrig hit his first home run. During his tenure, the first moving picture projector was patented. And during his tenure, Neil Armstrong became the first man on the moon. So you ask yourself, what do these three leaders have in common? And the answer is nothing really. But they have one thing in common. There was a new CTA train station that opened up during each of their administrations here in Chicago. The Wilson Station in Uptown was on the Red Line, opened in 1923. The Damon Station opened on the Blue Line in 1895. Yes, kids, that's 1895, not 1995. We actually had CTA trains back in the 1800s. And the 95th Street Station on the Red Line opened in 1969, along with the rest of the Red Line south. So what's the thing that those stations have in common? Well, none has received a major rehab since they originally opened. Now, sure, they've gotten some electrical upgrades, they've gotten a few coats of paint, a few repairs, a few signs, and we've added recently some 21st century upgrades like train tracker signs and security cameras. But basically, customers in 2014 are walking into essentially the same stations as their forebears did 91 years ago, 119 years ago, and 45 years ago, respectively. But that was before one of the most transit-focused mayors in decades brought this vision, his vision, to the CTA, and the status quo began to change. Since May 2011, the mayor has unveiled the largest capital investment program in CTA history. CTA has completed, begun, or announced nearly $5 billion in projects to modernize the CTA and bring it into the 21st century. Whereas previous administrations tended to focus on station rehabs along a particular rail line or tackle just a handful of large-scale projects, this mayor has taken the unprecedented strategy of making major investments across the entire rail and bus system. The total number of stations where construction is either completed, underway, or in the planning design stage, all at the same time, is unprecedented. More than 40 stations are seeing major improvements during the mayor's first term. That's about 1/3 of all CTA rail stations. Many of those major capital projects are ones you've already heard about, and the mayor just mentioned. The $425 million reconstruction of the Red Line South in 2013, completed in just 5 months, resulted in 20 minutes off the daily commute for Southside riders and the rehabilitation of all Southside rail stations. That project is emblematic of the mayor's leadership. It took courage to shut that line down for 5 months, to rebuild it fast for our customers. And it also took listening to the neighborhoods. Before we ran up to that, there was a long listening process with community leaders, aldermen, elected officials who understood the strategy, who bought into it and supported it. And the result was something that's beneficial for our customers, but also for the Southside neighborhoods and economy, the jobs that went with that project. The ongoing $292 million Your New Blue project to renovate stations and tracks along the O'Hare branch of the Blue Line recognizes O'Hare's airport's criticality as the economic engine of the region, as well as really extraordinary ridership growth along the southern corridor of that line, which tracks rapid residential and commercial development. When completed, the project will shave 10 minutes off the trip to and from the airport from downtown, and it will increase also our safety and reliability of service, not just for customers going to and from the airport, but from people living in the neighborhoods along that corridor. $71 million rehab of the Brown Line between the Loop and the Armitage will also help a congested and growing area. And the new Cermak McCormick Place Green Light Station, set to open next year, will at last provide easy and convenient access to downtown for conventioneers at McCormick Place, as well as a boost for Motor Row and the South Loop. But there have been scores of smaller projects that have also enhanced the customer experience. Our Renew crews have been out and have spruced up 100 rail stations. Our track maintenance crews have eliminated 20% of the slow zones throughout the system. And our maintenance teams have addressed fundamental needs that have been neglected for years. To boost security, we've added thousands and thousands of security cameras, saturating our rail platforms and retrofitting our entire rail fleet to include cameras inside the rail cars. Today, there are 23,000 security cameras on buses and trains and rail stations in the CTA system. Those cameras, as the mayor mentioned, have been a very effective tool in identifying suspects in crimes committed not only on our property, but off as well. This year alone, 2014, CTA cameras have aided police in the identification, investigation, and apprehension of more than 150 individuals involved in crimes that occurred either on our property or off. Some of those have been very high-profile cases, like a murder that occurred at a River North hotel. The suspect later used a nearby CTA station, and our cameras captured his image, which police used to track him down. Those cameras had been in only for a matter of weeks at the time. It appears that the would-be criminals are starting to get the message, though through the first half of this year, serious crime is down 30%, and the downward trend is continuing. We were also making huge investments in the buses and trains that provide more than 1.6 million rides on an average weekday. On the rail side, we've put into service nearly 600 of the latest generation 5000 series rail cars, which offer smoother, quieter rides and even generate power through their braking systems. And we're particularly excited about the next generation of rail cars, the upcoming 7000 series. Although hundreds of the 5000 series cars were financed by this administration, the 7000 series cars will be the first rail car designed by the current CTA administration. When all these rail cars are in service, the CTA will have one of the youngest rail fleets in decades. Cars that are more reliable and more comfortable. Even our older rail cars will perform better because they will all go through major overhauls. We're also purchasing more than 400 new clean diesel buses and performing gut rehabs of more than 1,000 buses to extend their road life. Those two efforts will give us the equivalent of an almost entirely new bus fleet. We're also using technology to improve the customer's experience. As you may have seen around town, we've added more than 300 bus tracker signs on bus shelters and are adding more, and have placed train tracker signs at all of our rail stations for the convenience of our customers. So never again will our customers have to wonder when the next train is going to arrive. And next year, after much plotting by Mayor Emanuel, as he knows, we're planning to install 4G wireless service in our subways to allow commuters to have uninterrupted and better connectivity for their mobile devices. And one thing I'm also excited about, we have a new high-tech bus tracking and communication system that will be deployed in 2015, which should help improve the age-old problem of bus bunching and gapping in the city's unpredictable traffic and construction. Some of the improvement and modernization work that our customers will never see, but they will definitely reap the benefits. Long neglected, perhaps because of their invisibility to the public, our bus maintenance facilities had fallen into such poor condition that service was repeatedly hindered and sometimes safety itself was jeopardized. So we undertook a $200 million plus rehabilitation project to upgrade those unglamorous but critical facilities, some that date back to the early 1900s when horses and buggies were operating on Chicago streets. We replaced maintenance pits and bus lifts, allowing our workers to work more efficiently and get buses back in service more quickly and also more safely. Another example of a hidden but critical and significant investment has been improvements to our power systems that propel the L trains. Over the last 2 years, we've added or rebuilt 6 electrical substations and added tactical power to ensure adequate power for our trains. Without those investments, we could not have added the service we have to key areas of our rail system where growing ridership demand has outstripped the CTA's ability to run trains. Without these improvements, we would routinely be faced with leaving customers on our platforms at the busiest stations. So what does all this mean? Of course, transit investment is about riders first and foremost, but transit investment is also about economic development and about Chicago's position as a world-class city, remaining attractive to new visitors and businesses. When GE Transportation decided to locate here, Chicago's role as a transportation hub and Mayor Emanuel's commitment to rebuilding the city's infrastructure were key to moving the company here to Chicago, underscoring why there's an unprecedented level of investment in transit, another investment by the mayor going on in Chicago right now. Transit investment is also about jobs, good-paying jobs that support families. The projects we've undertaken over the last 3.5 years have created thousands of construction-related jobs for Chicagoans, not to mention opportunities for suppliers and other support businesses. We've also put thousands of people to work in jobs that directly serve our customers, including hundreds of new bus drivers and 700 new customer assistant positions that were formerly contracted out. And we're proud to have expanded the CTA's ex-offender program to become one of the largest of its kind in the country, providing jobs as bus and rail car servicers. As you can see from this quote from the Chicago Tribune article about one of the program's participants, our Second Chance program has made a difference in hundreds of lives. In fact, the man quoted, Brandel Kemp, is now employed full-time by the CTA. All of the progress that we've seen, the investment in the jobs and economic development did not happen magically. You probably knew that. When he appointed me as head of the CTA, Mayor Emanuel gave a clear direction: fix the finances and improve the efficiency so that we can invest in the future. But before we could afford that path to modernization, however, we had to right the financial ship. I walked into the CTA in 2011 with a $308 million deficit. We began chipping away at that by bending the cost curve, reducing expenses, finding efficiencies, eliminating waste. And of course, this came on the heels of a decade or more of CTA doomsday budgets. We crafted new labor agreements that addressed outdated, costly work rules and lowered costs. We made sure bus and rail service was provided as efficiently and effectively as possible. We also looked internally and found a number of areas where we knew we could do better. We began tackling a chronic absenteeism problem and realized $10 million in annualized savings. And we created a modern supply chain system that has dramatically reduced unneeded inventory and reduced expenses. Through our partnership with NAPA, the national parts supplier, we were able to purchase materials when we need them and in the quantities we need when we need them. No longer do we have to over-purchase or carry unneeded inventory. We tackled this problem after we found a whole aisle in one of our warehouses filled with parts worth more than $6 million that hadn't been used in nearly a decade. After visiting that warehouse and examining the rows and rows of dust-caked boxes in dimly lit back corridors, we also at last found the resting place of Indiana Jones's Ark of the Covenant. Really? And as you may have seen a few weeks ago, we've even taken steps to make sure that our the state's mandated free and reduced fare program is fair and not subject to abuse, particularly because CTA customers and taxpayers subsidize that program to the tune of more than $100 million a year. So, what's next? Remember the 3 rail stations that I mentioned at the start of my presentation? Presidents Coolidge, Cleveland, and Nixon would be happy to know that the stations that opened up during their terms are finally getting a full makeover. A new modern $203 million Wilson station will become a transfer station between the red and purple lines and provide another catalyst for the revitalization of Uptown by becoming a strong neighborhood anchor. The Damon station is being gutted down to its walls and rebuilt to make its space work more efficiently while we nonetheless preserve its historic exterior. 95th Street will have an expansive new 21st century station. Like Wilson, it will bear little resemblance to its predecessor. The new station will have buildings on both sides of 95th Street and an enclosed walkway between the two. It will also create new areas for more than 1,000 CTA and PACE buses, as well as Greyhound, that serve the station daily, making a much safer environment for the thousands of adults and children who transfer there every day. Just as importantly, the station will become an anchor for the surrounding neighborhood. Next year, we will see the start of work on a new, fully accessible Washington Wabash station in the Loop, which will replace 2 century-old stations. And the opening of the new Cermak McCormick Place station in the South Loop will not only serve McCormick Place, but also the burgeoning Motor Row neighborhood on the south side. We will also continue planning for 2 projects intended to secure a strong future for the Red Line, our busiest line. The Red-Purple Modernization Project will rebuild the northern portion of the Red Line from Belmont to Howard Station and the Purple Line. The corridor was built nearly a century ago, and our program will upgrade tracks and reconstruct stations. Simply put, without these improvements, the Red Line simply won't be able to handle the ever-increasing ridership demands and also will stifle economic growth while diminishing neighborhoods with some of the highest densities in Chicago. The Red Line extension to 130th Street will bring transit to many communities on the far south side, improving mobility and access to jobs and fostering economic development. We've made great progress on that project and will begin a series of public meetings next year. And next year, the CTA and CDOT will debut the Central Loop BRT corridor, which will provide bus-only lanes and pedestrian improvements along Washington and Madison Streets, as well as the transportation center near Union Station. Central Loop BRT will provide a much improved connection between the West Loop rail commuter stations and the East Loop. And we definitely look forward to seeing what the new 7000 series rail cars will look like. The bids are expected to arrive next year. Chicago is lucky to have a mayor who is so focused on transit and who understands how integral transit is to the fabric of our city. In his first term alone, he's moved transit forward more so than any of his recent predecessors. I obviously share the Chicago Tribune's view that there has been a turnaround at the CTA, and with Crane's view that there is an ongoing renaissance of CTA modernization projects, all under the mayor's watch. Last week, the CTA passed our fourth balanced budget. Despite the financial challenges, each of our four budgets has held the line on base fares, protected or added service levels, and avoided the previous practice of previous administrations of transferring critical capital investment dollars to cover operational costs. And while we're proud of the progress we've made so far, we're well aware of the proverbial more work yet to do. In that spirit, we announced just last week a partnership with the Federal Transit Administration to seek ways to further improve safety on our system, to develop insights that will not only serve our customers, but other major transit agencies around the country who now fall under the FTA's jurisdiction under new congressionally authorized legislation. And we continue to look for ways to make improvements that benefit the day-to-day experience of our customers, making sure that trains and buses run on time, that stations are clean and safe, that customers get timely and helpful information, and that their commutes are quick and comfortable. These are easier said than done given the complexity of our system, but we have thousands of hardworking men and women at the CTA who strive every day to do their best to make that possible. Transit is a 24/7, 365 business, and that means we can't lose focus on either the day-to-day challenges or the longer-term planning that's critical to ensure a strong future for transit. Our riders and our city deserve nothing less. Thank you for your time.
If you have any questions, our people, where are they? There they are. Raise your hand. I'm sure a lot of you have questions about this. Write it out, the question. We no longer, we write them out.
I also wanted to acknowledge that four of the CTA's directors are here who have been extraordinary partners in the last 4 years in this effort and really work hard. They're the unsung heroes really of so many things behind the scenes, and just like to acknowledge them. Kevin Irvine is here, if you could raise your hand. Alejandro Silva, Ashish Sen, and Jackie Grimshaw. One of my former partners in crime is here as well. John Gates, who was just left as the chairman of the Regional Transit Authority, is now heavily involved in the new administration in Springfield. And Leanne Redden, who we're now working closely with on many initiatives, who is the newly appointed executive director of the RTA. So, thank you.
Here the questions come. By the way, the mayor left, huh? Okay. I have a hunch you'll be hearing a lot of this in the next 2-3 months. Just a wild Paul Green stab. Okay. Well, this one's in ink with very good writing. Clint Sabin, where are you, Clint? Raise your hand. There you go, way in the back. What is the dollar value of the partial elimination? Oh, God, here we go. No need to, start off with a freebie. Clint, you only want to ask this question. All right, here we go. What is the dollar value of the partial elimination of the Blagojevich-created seniors ride free program? Is this part of the reason you've been able to keep fares down? Be quiet.
I don't actually know, to be honest with you. The Blagojevich mandate was only in effect for a limited amount of time, and then it was repealed by the Illinois legislature, and that happened before I got to the CTA. We operate under a federal mandate that says that all senior citizens ride for half price, no matter the income level. So we often see Warren Buffett riding our trains at half price. Also, the state mandates both reduced and free rides for different categories. The free rides are based on income for seniors and people with disabilities, and then there are other reduced fares based on the categories. That was the $100 million that I mentioned earlier of free and reduced fare rides that the CTA provides each year.
Okay. Good answer. Dory Wilson, where are you? All right. Target date for opening of the McCormick Place station.
My understanding is, from our partners at CDOT, and if there's someone from CDOT here, you may be able to give the precise answer, is this spring, late spring. But if someone from CDOT may contradict me.
Can't we come up with like a complimentary question here? Byron Clark, where are you, Byron? By the way, notice all the questionnaires are in the back. And with these kind of questions, you're going to remain in the back. Sorry, Father. Sorry, Father. Got Father Ryan here. Well, the mayor left off. Okay. Byron, you have a very good question. Customer service at some stations is sometimes challenged. And bus drivers occasionally make dangerous decisions. Can you please comment on any initiatives to increase accountability for the customer facing CTA employees?
Yeah.
Go right ahead. It's an easy.
Yeah, we do investigate all complaints, and we trace back the history of the location, and if there's if the customer is correct and there's been aberrant behavior by one of our employees, then there is discipline that is provided and as part of the progressive discipline process under the union contract. So we do take that very seriously. We also have invested significantly in training. We created early on in our administration a learning and support unit to have consistent, high-quality training throughout the system. That includes customer service, but we also, we try to be both proactive but also reactive in a way that's responsible and accountable.
No more questions, City Club B? No more City Club A? Okay, how about a big round of applause for our speaker?